Welcome to the Fit for Business and Life podcast. It's brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network, improving the performance and transforming busy, overweight professionals, business owners, and consultants, along with their teams, to become fitter, happier, and more confident. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is all about sharing passion, knowledge, and expertise around business and personal performance from our hosts, myself, Martin Sharp, a 30-year change maker in businesses large and small, and Dominic Furness, a world traveller and life enthusiast, plus special guests sharing their know-how, experience in making changes in their businesses and themselves, featuring inspirational stories, insights, tips, and practical knowledge, bringing more healthier, happier, and high achievement to your world.
Why not follow this podcast? We are live on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you are watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We very much appreciate all of your support.
So sit back and enjoy this episode of the Fit Business and Life podcast, brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network.
Right, episode 3, movement of the Kilimanjaro Mini-Series, as I've called it.
Kilimanjaro movement. Well, it's walking, isn't it? Let's face it.
Yes, and there was that day that we spoke about in past episodes with the 5 kilometers. So,
yeah,
small movement, big movement, and a lot of minor movement.
Yeah, so I think being a bit facetious there, saying it's just walking. You're right. There is such a variety in what we did there. Some days it was like a 5K walk, specifically on the Thursday and the Friday, a lot shorter kind of walks, much more rest available to us as we're getting ready to do that kind of summit climb. The previous day to that, we were doing like 10K walks with like a 1,000 meters of ascent each day, and then on the summit day itself, that was a 17K
the biggest one,
yeah. So that's going up and coming down, and we ascended 1.2 kilometers, effectively all the way to the top. So it's 1.2 kilometers up, 1.2 kilometers down in height.
Yeah, and as you were saying, poly, like doing it slowly. So you don't suffer from that altitude sickness any worse.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is one of the things that really kind of saves you, because it allows you kind of to adjust gradually as you're going through that kind of climb. And it's hard because I know, for example, from when me and you have done various different walks, especially in the UK, we can go out and we can do like a 10-kilometer walk in the space of 2 or 3 hours in the hills, etc. Maybe 4 hours if we're looking to kind of make it nice and enjoyable. And that would feel like a really nice day out for us. And I know, especially for you, if we took, for example, an entire day, 8 to 10 hours doing 10 kilometers, you'd go nuts.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you've touched upon this, because that was going to be my primary question on this topic, really, is like, because we have been out together and we do have that faster pace. I just wondered how you found a slower pace. I mean, obviously, as you get further up the mountain and air becomes thinner and the altitude becomes an issue, probably very grateful for that, and by that time you've been doing it for a few days and settled into it. But did you find it tricky at first, or did you kind of just set your mind to it already that it's like, right, this is slower, I'm going to change my pace and commit to it? Because sometimes it can be harder to walk slower.
Yeah, so the one thing I find when I'm walking a lot slower is sometimes you just can't get into a rhythm. So you tend to be you just don't get that kind of nice, easygoing kind of way of being able to get into the walk and just enjoying the walk. You kind of stop, start all the time. But that wasn't what it felt like doing Kilimanjaro. And again, I think with some of the recent climbs, so for example, we did the Seri 3 Peaks and some of the things we did in lakes, where we had other people with us, where we had to go that just a little bit slower, it kind of helped because we'd already got back into that rhythm already of going at somebody else's pace. And I think when you kind of take your mind out of it and think, actually, I'm just going to enjoy the moment, enjoy the scenery, enjoy what's around, etc. It's great because actually it doesn't matter if you're going too fast.
Yeah, just taking it for what it is. Because I guess on a lot of the training missions, we'll call them, you've done many different paces, as you just touched on there, like the Lake District Seri 3 Peaks with the people slower pace. We've done like the National 3 Peaks, of which we probably started fast and ended slow from being fatigued. You were quite a bit ahead at the end there, but because you decided to run a bit, and then segueing into doing, like, you've done the Coaldale Horseshoe, the 3 Peaks on your own. So you've done the Yorkshire and the Welsh. You ran those. So those things are 3 different types of paces, and then Kilimanjaro is different again. So you can see how there's different approaches to all of them.
Yeah, and I think things like the Yorkshire 3 Peaks, definitely, and the Welsh 3 Peaks, it was you are trying to fit within that kind of time frame and say, okay, let's get it done within 24 hours or 12 hours, whatever. So the auction ones, it stood to be done within like 12 hours. Did it in around 8 hours, which was great. I mean, it's kind of smashed my previous time of doing it. I'm sure actually as I get better at doing the running and do more fell running, I can probably shave a little bit more time off that. Bruce already has thrown the gauntlet down and said his best time for doing the Yorkshire Three Peaks was under 6 hours, and Mike said the same. So
Pretty
both of those
fast.
guys have said that's what they've done.
And what
So
was your time again? 8.
it was just over 8 hours, 8.5 hours.
2 hours to shave off a full quarter. How do you feel about that?
I'm up for the challenge.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Probably won't be over the winter this year, but
No.
maybe next. We'll see.
Yeah. No, that sounds good.
And then when we did the Welsh Three Peaks, that's a 24-hour one to do the Three Peaks there because there's driving in between, and we did it in just over 12. So again, I think had I booked the right car park,
Yeah, that might have helped. I wasn't there on that one, but I heard about it. Yeah.
yeah, that would probably have easily shaved a good hour off that time, maybe. And also, again, I just enjoyed doing those peaks. I'm really glad I booked the wrong car park because
Hmm.
actually the enjoyment came from doing a different path, doing the Rideau path, as
Yeah, the
opposed to
Rideau path looks really, really good. Just that vast, like when you were on the ridge for that amount of time, that looked really cool.
It was. It was a really nice approach. Definitely recommend doing that one again. So again, thinking about from the movement side of things, that definitely kind of got us up the mountain because I've had that experience. I know how to do it fast. I know how to do some of the ascents slower. And again, because you're kind of going as a group, the one thing with Kilimanjaro is you've got to take local guides with you. So these guys already know the mountain. They've taken loads of people up there and listen to them because they really know their stuff. They know what works and what doesn't work.
Well, with the movement, I am interested. So obviously, walking is the main factor. That is the big overarching thing. There, it's a walk, it's a hike. But did you do anything like? I mean, I know you didn't take resistance band or anything, but I'm kind of asking like, did you ever do any stretching, any yoga, any like push ups, anything, any forms of other movement other than the walking to keep other parts of your body unstiff, or I don't know.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I'm glad you kind of touched on that because one of the things some people asked me to do was actually to do some stretching with them, which is one of the things I wanted to do because again, it has a great impact on how your body can continue to work. And I found real value in doing the stretching these last few years, especially as I'm starting to get a bit older, right? Um, and when we're doing the walks like 8 hours a day, having that ability just to stretch out those muscles, specifically things like your quads, your hamstrings, your calves, your glutes, was invaluable. But the one thing I was trying to do when I was devising a little routine for doing the stretching is to try and find ways of not having to bend over or not being on the floor because of a couple of reasons. One is as you get further into altitude and you start getting more altitude sickness and things, or the potential for altitude sickness, things like constantly bending and moving, etc., can exasperate the issue. So you want to try and keep yourself as upright and as stable as you possibly can.
And I guess that's a similar thing to getting up too fast, but it just
Absolutely.
happens easier at altitude.
Yeah, and again, as we're going through that, one of the things we were talking with the team about is, even things like packing your bag into at the end when you've finished each day, ready for the day's hike. So putting your sleeping bag away, etc. If you were starting to feel a little bit nauseous, a little bit dizzy, etc., just get one of the porters to kind of come and help you being able to do that. Because even just simple little movements that you wouldn't think are a big deal can become a big deal.
Interesting. So how were you doing the stretching without doing this, or is it a little bit different when you've already settled and rested for a bit?
No, no, it's still the same. So what I tended to try and do is think about what kind of ways of stretching without having to bend over and things. So for example, with calf stretches, again, putting your toes up against a rock or something that we had available to us, or even behind a chair. Like we did it actually inside the mess tent at one point.
Right. Okay.
So that you can get that kind of nice leverage against your calf, really feel that kind of stretch down the back, and again being able to push it up so you can feel that compression afterwards. So again, being able to get that nice movement in there. Things like with the hamstring, again bringing the leg up, so you kind of got it on a rock or on a chair, etc. And again, just leaning into it so you can feel the stretch down the back of your hamstring without having to bend over and stuff.
Okay, so you're doing more like traditional stretches rather than like yoga or something.
Yeah, there's
Like it
no.
sounds like there's less down dogs and more
Oh yeah,
like I don't know. some other types of stretches, but yeah.
There's no downward dogs. There's no old man on one leg trying not to fart, anything like that. It was
Right, okay.
it was just pure fundamental, just good
Fundamental, that's the word, not traditional, fundamental stretching,
good
yeah.
stretches that were in place. And again, everyone enjoyed it. It kind of worked. Each of the stretch routines was no more than maybe 15, 20 minutes. We did it once. We did it outside at the top of Shearer Camp as the sun was setting, and it
Ooh.
was just glorious because not only were you kind of stretching away, but you had this beautiful vista around you. So it kind of just brought that calm and peace and energy with you as well.
Yeah, I bet that really personified the moment. That's amazing.
It did. It just felt absolutely fantastic. So again, like you said, there's no real resistance training, etc. A lot of the focus is purely on the movement of walking. But I was really glad of doing the resistance training beforehand. So, for example, as we're going up Shearer Ridge um, from Machami Camp, that pretty much was almost like a set of stairs, literally for every what was it? We ascended it was 200 meters for every kilometer. So it's an incredibly steep ascent through. And then the steps were, they weren't small steps. These were kind of on rocks. It's not something where
Mhm.
someone's actually man made them or anything. This is actually a natural feature. But you'd have to step up maybe about a foot or 30 centimeters each time, maybe slightly more. None of them were quite equal or even. So there's lots of kind of work that needs to be done there. So again, great having that support from some solid leg muscles, so your calves, your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, etc. And that kind of really helps, certainly on days like that where we had like a 10-kilometer walk and a quite a steep ascent.
Yeah, I imagine everything's factored into that, like, all the running as well, helping with the stamina, and then as you say, the strength training to have the muscles in your legs to propel you up those steps and feeling less fatigued, and I guess you wouldn't have DOMs quite as badly as if you hadn't done the resistance training, so
Yeah,
I see that
exactly.
paying off.
So all the kind of effort in the resistance training, all the effort in doing the endurance training as well for the marathons, I think all that lot really did pay off because it didn't feel bad any day. It wasn't like I got to the end of any day and thought, actually, I feel completely exhausted, with
Mhm.
the exception of the summit day.
Well, yeah, but that was just tough, as you'll have heard in the past episode. Just that's just like mental drain and physically, like, a toll on your body, like, yeah, that's, like, out of the realm of what training can prepare you for, really, without training at those altitudes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think the shock, I think in some respects of that kind of high altitude sickness that kind of came on, that was the other kind of side of it because it's not just a case of thinking physically, the movement side of it, of actually getting yourself up the mountain, which obviously we did
Mhm.
by the fact we got to the top. But it's then actually going through um, that that sheer blackout and losing control of your muscles, and then having to it's like get that moment of lucidity back and pushing yourself through each of that. Maybe I don't know, must have gone through that process 20, maybe 30 times just to get between Stella Point and Ahura Peak. And that takes a toll on you mentally as well as much as it does physically.
No, I can totally believe that. It's, putting your body through the ringer, it really is.
Mm, definitely. So from a movement point of view, I think definitely if anyone's planning on doing Kilimanjaro, if you can get yourself out, you don't have to do a huge amount. I mean, it literally is a case of just start by walking. Can you do maybe a 5K walk? Can you maybe do a 10K walk? But it's doing it consecutively. So you do a 10K walk one day, do a 10K walk the next day, do a 10K walk the day after. And then that way you're starting to work on tired legs. It was a training technique I was given by Gabe with regards to marathon running, and he says you need to get used to running on tired legs when it comes down to doing a marathon, because at some point you will be tired. And I think the same thing is with Kilimanjaro. You have to get used to the idea of walking on tired legs. It's not like you walk for a day, have a day off, walk for a day, have a day off. You're literally walking every single day. So if you can get your body, your mind, etc., your muscles in that place where actually it's quite used to working on tired legs, then actually that's going to give you a great benefit come forwards.
Right, yeah, I think I'd be the perfect clientele for that then, because my legs are always shot when I'm trying to skate, so
Well, absolutely. I mean, between your resistance training that you're doing every day, your running, not running, sorry, walking that you do every day, your
Well, I did a
skating,
10K run
etc.
the other day.
You did do a 10K run the other
Out of
day.
the blue, I was walking, thought I'm gonna run. Well, I first thought I'd run a marathon. Then I thought I don't think I can run a marathon. Then I thought maybe I'll do a half marathon, and then I just got a little, I don't want to say bored, but kind of. So then settled on doing. I googled what's a 10K, and yeah, did the 10K, 56 minutes. So not too bad. And I did start in hiking shoes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll say like this is actually a pretty good segue to be honest, because like I noticed in that like the lack of preparation for that because I just did it on a whim. Like I guess my fitness level is already okay because of like as I say, all the resistance training I do, the skateboarding, the climbing. Like my fitness is there, but I think firstly just doing that sort of the blue, my muscles were not ready for it, my body was not ready for it, and then not stretching afterwards. I feel like was a big mistake because for literally the next week, like I felt real like I've not felt that fatigued in a while, like in my legs. And you're saying you should get used to doing stuff on tired legs. Like I was not used to that type of feeling of tired legs. Like I quite often have tired legs, a tired body from as you was about to go into the point there. I think of like always resistance training and then like climbing a few times a week and then skating when I'm not and then cycling places. Like my body's always feeling a bit tired and I'm used to that feeling, but not from the feeling of running. So
Yeah, and it is different. I mean, again, I remember back to where it started. Well, as you know, and you can testify, when I first started running last year, it took my body about 3 months to adapt to running to get to the point where I was almost, I could almost say I was enjoying it.
mhm.
And those first 3 months, it really was like hell. Like the way my legs felt, the way my body felt, etc. It is completely different. So when you kind of jump into doing something like a running or for example, hill walking is the same, you are going to feel more tired. It is going to feel more stressful, but the more you do it, that's where your body starts to adapt. It's going back to that simple law of specific adaptation by imposed demands. By you imposing the demand of more running and doing more hill walking, etc., then you will get to a position where actually your body will adapt and say, I'm quite used to it. And that's where the value comes in of doing the training.
Yeah, so we've already touched upon like your training for the marathons and doing all this other hill walking and stuff, but I'd like to ask how you found training with the backpack on because the most recent stuff we've done or you've done, you did do a few of them, so like 33 Peaks, your backpack, for example. Did you find that training beneficial to again get used to the feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right, because a lot of the training I have been doing, certainly around things like the marathons, etc., and doing the real speedy three peak challenges, things like the nationals and the Yorkshire one. I was just using my running vest, which is a good kind of 10-litre backpack. So it still had in there things like, first aid kits, waterproofs, insulation layer, food, water, etc. So it's not like it was light, but in total, I may have been carrying, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 kilos. Whereas the pack that I was needing to take up for Kilimanjaro, it included not just those items, but then more water. So I was having to take more than just the 1 litre I was carrying around. We'd normally take 2 to 3 litres a day. There would also be additional food in there. There was gloves, hats, neck gaiters, 2 pairs of sunglasses. There's head torches. There's first aid, not first aid, tablets and things. What would you call that? It's almost what feels like a pharmacy,
Well,
to be honest with you.
like a med pack, but like
Yeah,
if you want to see everything that's in his bag, we have got a video on YouTube. If you wanna watch that, I could leave it in the description.
yeah, definitely. And then again, so the pack that I was carrying up Kilimanjaro was around about somewhere between 12 and 15 kilos, depending on which day it was. Which is it's almost double what we were doing on those. So having those few trips out where I did it with a full pack, and also did it with the double line socks on the walking boots, etc., rather than use my trail shoes. All these kind of things just give me confidence more than anything else that actually was perfectly okay. And again, working with that little bit extra weight on my back, again, over I mean, when we did the Surrey Three Peaks, that was in the space of what, 23 hours? No, it wasn't that
It
long.
wasn't 23 hours, it was about 13,
It was about
14.
13.
Yeah, because we took that slower pace on
That
that
was it.
one.
That was the one that was supposed to be 12 hours, and we did the slow pace for half of it, and then we sped up the last
Boomed
bit.
the last bit, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Sorry. I'm mixing up which bits were which.
Yeah,
Telling so much training.
yeah, what's going on? I think we're back.
So doing that with the backpack on was for me, it was just a really big thing, not only from a physical point of view, could actually do it and actually get used to the feeling of that on my back, but mainly from a confidence point of view, just having that confidence going into Kilimanjaro, knowing that the equipment was not an issue. And again, that came back from some of the marathon training. So again, you don't run a marathon and do anything different than you would do with your training sessions. So when you're in training sessions, you've getting your hydration correct, you're getting your fueling correct, you get your clothing correct, etc. So that on the day of doing the marathon itself, you've got everything in place, and that's the same principle we took. Getting ready for Kilimanjaro. So everything was tested, tried, made sure we're okay with it.
Well, it seems to have worked wonders for you.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the other thing, as a bit of advice for anybody who's looking to do Kilimanjaro or any kind of high altitude climb for that matter, because again, you don't have to travel as far as Africa to do that. You could just head over to the Alps. There's lots of amazing things across Europe that you can do, or into the Pyrenees and things. It is just to try and get out there into the hills, even around, for example, Wales or Lake District, up into Scotland. Because we've got some fabulous, fabulous hills in the UK, which gives you a whole variety of different types of climbs, whether that's climbing across like an arête, like we were saying with ridge walks. You've got things like scree, which you can walk on again, which you'll find in various different mountains. You can do these things in winter, so you can get an idea of what it feels like in snow. Definitely have an idea of what it feels like with wind and
Yeah.
rain. I mean, we were very, very lucky in Kilimanjaro this time. We didn't actually get affected by rain, but speaking to the guides, literally the week before, it was raining really heavily, actually on the mountain. So these things can affect you. So if you're planning one of these trips of a lifetime, go out there and test yourself in all different conditions. Don't just try and be a fair weather walker. Get yourself out there and actually test yourself when it's not, and also test your equipment in the same kind of position. Because there's nothing worse, for example, than getting to a position where you're absolutely soaking wet, your coat's kind of been leaking, you've forgotten to take a rain cover for your backpack, and everything's soddened, and you get into camp and actually you can't dry. You really can't.
Yeah, maybe don't test these things actually on the mountains. Like maybe like if you get a new jacket, like wear it at home in the rain first. And if you get new shoes, like boots, because you need to replace yours, like wear them around the house a bit, wear them on the dog walk or a local walk instead of like going straight for the mountains. As you learned when you swapped your socks on the Cleveland way that we did, and like you got some terrible
Uh,
blisters, which is pretty bad, pretty brutal. So yeah, I guess you test your equipment in the right way. And I would say for like testing for terrain, something like Kilimanjaro, like if you have got that fit, you've already got that baseline fitness level or built it up. Like I do think the three peak challenges in the UK have been quite good because from my experience, because I've not done them all like you did, but even just from we've done two, like done Surrey and did the national 24-hour challenge. So even just the national 24-hour challenge one, like firstly you're against the clock a bit, which is kind of similar to being like against the daylight, like your experience on Kilimanjaro. Like weather conditions, like it was literally up Ben Nevis, which I never expected, boiling in shorts and a vest. So just trying to deal with that kind of heat on bed never is just crazy. So that was too hot, and then doing like Scarfell Pike, we actually ended up in the rain in a thunder and lightning storm,
mm,
just on a different mountain. And then you get to the top of Snowdon, and I've never stood somewhere so windy in my life, and also like the um the visibility was so bad. So just in that like 24-hour period, just going up those different mountains, there were so many different weather systems, which is almost similar to Kilimanjaro having like the 5 different ecosystems, I suppose. And that was like a good test for like, well, yourself and like the equipment and like the mindset of like being in like a tense situation of a thunderstorm and like navigation skills. I guess you don't need that too much on a trek with the guided tour, not tour, but the guided group up Kilimanjaro. But yeah, like just all these different things is definitely good prep for something like that. So I'd probably, if you've got the skill and the confidence, and obviously do it in a safe way, then I think the three peaks is a good way to train for something like that.
yeah. Well, let's pop a pin in the idea of a mapper, etc., with regards to doing the guided tours. Because we'll come back to that when we talk a bit more around monitoring and things like that
Sure, sure.
in that episode. But the other kind of thing of doing the Three Peaks challenge, especially the 24-hour ones, is you not only you're out there in all the different weather conditions because you're trying to do this within a specific time frame. So again, if you're kind of a fair weather walker, it does kind of push your boundaries a bit. But also it's things like you get used to using things like the head torch and stuff for doing the night walks, which we did.
Mhm.
When we went up Snowdon, and that's again, it's an essential piece for when you go do things like Kilimanjaro, because that summit, you do summit at night, and getting used to the idea that the only thing that you see in front of you is maybe 2-3 meters of your head torch, plus maybe the 2-3 meters of the person in front of you, and you're kind of moving up. You don't see the great vista around you. You literally only have this kind of small space that you're kind of looking around, and if you don't get used to that kind of idea, it can feel a bit weird, because it could potentially feel a bit claustrophobic because you don't feel the vastness of where you were. You now feel quite enclosed in this tiny bubble, effectively, as you're moving up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it helps you move with purpose in that situation. Like, you just gotta move right, like, that'll keep your mind out of hopefully, like, feeling those, like, feelings of claustrophobia and things.
Yeah, definitely. And for some people, for example, when one of the guys became quite dizzy as he was going up, starting with the altitude sickness, he because he was able to just focus on the person's feet in front of him, that kept him grounded. It kept him focused, and it meant that he could make it to the top, even though he was starting to go through those symptoms.
Oh, that's a
As
real
soon
good
as he
strategy.
started, yeah, as soon as he started to look further afield or look around, etc., the symptoms got a lot worse. So again, it can work in your favor in some cases.
Right, love it, love it.
Yeah,
Right, should we wrap this one up here?
I think so, because I think we've covered movement off with this one. Next one, we're going to talk about moderation. We'll go into some of the reasons why and what we kind of did to make that work on the mountain. In the meantime, as always, we'd just like to say a big thank you for you for taking the time out to listen to this episode of the Fit for Business Life podcast. The Fit for Business Life podcast is brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network, helping busy professionals and their teams become healthier, happier, and higher achieving in business and in life. If you'd like to join us as a guest or get in touch to know more about the topics covered, then we'd love to hear from you. Simply email hello@sharpfitforlife.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Fit for Business Life podcast. The Fit for Business Life podcast is produced and presented by Wax Tie Limited. Copyright is applied.